Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Behind the Diagnosis. Today we're going to learn about the lovely Kerin and her story. Now I have to preface this by saying I know Kerin very well. She's my long-term neighbour and kind of adopted grandma that I've known for many years. But she's got such a powerful story that I thought would be really lovely to share, and I think people really need to hear more of what she's gone through. So Kerin, why don't you just introduce yourself a little bit to everyone, a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so you've done a good job to start off with. I've been teaching music in the schools and also at home for many, many years. I love harmony, I love recycling, I hate waste. I love to give back to society in one form or another, and therefore putting it all together, I actually volunteer at an op shop that covers all points.
Yeah, I know. And so Kerin, you have a really fantastic story and journey about going through bowel cancer. And this happened at age 66, I think you told
That's right.
me. Can you tell me what it was like at that time and how this was discovered?
Well, I thought I was very healthy and nothing was wrong.
Yeah.
So a parcel came in the post, thanks to the government, and it was at a very inconvenient time. So I decided that it could stay over there and I'd not look at it and we'd just ignore it for a while. So this went on for days, and eventually I thought, look, I have to do something about it. So I opened it up and ended up doing the test, part 1, part 2, because the first one drowned. And sent it off. So some weeks later I received a notification by mail to say that the reading had been positive. I didn't believe it.
Yeah.
Yes, so I ignored that too. And whether that was denial or whether it was inconvenience, probably a bit of both, I proceeded to pack for overseas, left for overseas, and ignored the whole thing.
Oh my God.
So when I came back from overseas, I received a phone call from my doctor saying, I want to see you now. So off I went, and he wrote out a request for a colonoscopy. I went for the colonoscopy, and I was told to sit back in the waiting room until I was called. So it went on and on.
Yeah, yeah.
And I waited for a very long time. Eventually I was ushered into one of the rooms where there was a big photo of great big bulbous red horrible things, which meant nothing to me. And I was told, I think at that stage of the game, that I had suspect stage 4 cancer.
God.
That meant nothing because I'd never heard of the word metastasized, and I had no idea about stages. So I just said yes, and that was that. So it appeared as though it was a little bit serious.
Just a bit.
And they were talking about an operation.
Oh God.
And so off I went down the path.
Yeah. But isn't that terrifying that you had no symptoms really at all?
Well, I think that is a big call for everybody to know.
Yeah.
I had no symptoms then. I have no problems now.
Yeah, because in medical school, we learn about all these symptoms, bleeding, weight loss, and we're meant to recognise those signs. But then you come along and you had literally nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah, and that's scary. And I think bowel cancer is actually becoming really common in young people. And it's, again, that idea that people don't have any signs, and then all of a sudden they're diagnosed, and it's sort of a shock to the system that how is this possible? It really is, isn't it? It can happen to anyone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was the fecal occult test, the test that the government gave. That's what diagnosed you.
Yeah. It was.
So I'm assuming you're quite grateful for that, even though it was a bit of a nuisance.
I'm a great fan. A great fan.
And what was next after diagnosis? What was the journey like?
Well, the next was hospital. Well, I don't like hospitals either, but I had to go down that path.
Yeah.
So I waited until that occurred, and during that period of time, it was suggested that I upped my oxygen, the
okay.
oxygen, by doing physical exertion.
Right, right.
So I went to a friend's gym close by and also sped up and down local hills and really took that part seriously so that I prepared myself for the operation as best I could.
Yeah, yep, yep. And what was happening in the operation? What were they planning to do?
Well, I guess they were investigating.
Yeah. So that was first to see what was going on inside and how much it potentially had spread.
Yes. So it had metastasized to my appendix.
Yeah.
And I also had what was known as a sympathetic mass.
Right.
And when they found the sympathetic mass, that then brought it back from stage 4 to stage 3.
Yeah, yeah. And how, in those early weeks, what was it like emotionally, physically? Was it a bit of a shock to the system?
No, it was what it was. And again, I think I'm very grateful of my outlook to life in general.
Yeah, yeah.
I've always been an optimist, probably a little bit of an idealist as well. So I knew that it had to be done, and therefore I went with the flow.
Yeah, yeah.
There was conflict with my daughter.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I refused to accept that I was stage 4, because attached to that was the word suspect.
Right.
And until that suspect became a proper diagnosis, I just didn't go down that path. So she was cranky with me because she said that I wasn't taking the situation seriously enough.
Yeah.
And I thought that she was just a panic merchant.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
There was friction between the two of us.
Yeah, and I mean, that shows potentially how people react differently in times of stress as well. You know, some people are quite positive and strong, whereas others do find it really difficult to cope. And I think that's sort of that clash of the two different mindsets as well, isn't it?
Well, I can remember it on my very, very last interview with the oncologist.
Yeah.
She said, I just wish that there were more people with your attitude because it makes such a difference.
Absolutely.
But I didn't work at that. That's just me.
Yeah, yeah. And how did you find the strength to get through surgery, chemo, radiation? How was that?
Well, I didn't have any strength per se. My attitude was that I was on a path of, say, stepping stones. And I had to go from this stepping stone to the next stepping stone.
Yeah.
And I stayed there for a while, did what I had to, and then I went on to the next. So everything was calculated in my mind.
Yeah, yeah.
As eventually getting to the end.
Yeah, yeah. And how was that chemo journey for you? I remember you telling it was it was difficult and different. What was it like? And what were the sort of steps with chemo?
Well, I find it a very interesting journey, really, because I was given 12 sessions of chemo over 6 months, which was once every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I would go into hospital for half a day, and then at the end of the half day, they would put attach a machine to me through a port.
Right.
And that stayed there for 3 to 4 days.
Yeah, yeah.
So it wasn't nice. It was very inconvenient having this thing draping around you for 24/7.
Yeah, yeah.
So the showers and the baths were out and the sponges came into effect. I don't think I even changed my clothes.
Oh my God.
The knickers I changed, but everything else was too much of a bother to get this contraption off, to get things on. So I had a uniform, and that was night and day. And at the end of that, of course, I celebrated very well.
Yeah, yeah.
With a long, lovely shower. And life went on from there. So after the attachment came off, I knew that I had about 3 days of relatively good health.
Yep.
Before the chemo kicked in, and then it spiraled down.
Oh God.
For the rest of the week.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not one for medication.
Yep.
So I wouldn't take the nausea pills. until it was explained that it was much better that you kept on an even keel rather than this great big up and down, feeling horrible, feeling all right. So I eventually succumbed to the medication, and that looked after that part of it.
And the medication helped?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still had the nausea at times, particularly more in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So that spiraled down.
Yeah.
Now, at that point, I then came up, and I knew that I had 1 week of sanity before the cycle then started again.
Yeah.
So I had to face 2 weeks of work to be crammed into one.
Yeah.
And that I did.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah, but the really good part about it was that I had a routine that I had to stick to.
Yeah. And that helped you a lot.
Yes, very much so. I had a beautiful Siberian Husky.
Yep.
And may I add that she'd have nothing to do with me at the beginning of chemo either. Whether it was the smell of the chemo, of the chemicals or not, I don't know. But she would have nothing to do with me. And then, of course, she sat with me all the time, which was really good. Yeah. So she had always in her life had 2 walks a day, one in the morning and one at night. So what was wrong? That had to continue. So off we went for our morning walk. Then I came home, and it depended where I was in the cycle as to whether I did much or I did very little for the middle of the day. Yeah. Then I taught in the afternoon from 4 till about 6 or 7, and then I would take the dog for a walk again. Yeah. So I had my day staked.
So you were still teaching?
I was still teaching.
Oh my God.
Not at school. I'd given up school, but I still had a relatively large number of students that I was teaching at home.
Do you think any of them were a bit scared or worried?
No, the parents were concerned. The kids didn't care.
Yeah.
And there were some times where I just made the last lesson before I collapsed.
Yeah. Oh my God.
But in saying that, that's good too. It was a bit like morning sickness with kids.
But it kept you
school.
going, having that routine and having that regularity.
It was staked enough.
Yeah. And do you think that people were understanding and supportive at that time?
They were very supportive, yes, but I kept them at a distance, mainly with phone calls, because I never knew what my body was going to do on a certain day.
Yeah.
Whereas I could lie on the lounge, I could stick my feet over the top of the lounge, I could do whatever, and the conversations were really delightful. So that was good.
Yeah. And looking back, what do you think helped the most? Was it getting screened early and your mindset and everything? What helped you through this journey the most?
I think it was the mindset and the routine.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Yeah. And a lot of people still put off that bowel screening like you did back then. What is your message to people like that?
Don't put it off. It's an absolute gift from the government. We're lucky to really live in a country where they care.
Yep.
And they give us this gift of, basically, with me, it was the gift of life.
Yeah, it was.
Because if I hadn't done what I did when I had done it, I wouldn't be here talking to you now.
Yeah. And that's kind of scary to think about, isn't it? It really was that initiation from the government and taking the steps. And of course, everything they do is sort of backed by these public health measures, are backed by the research to suggest that early intervention is helpful. But that really is what saved your life at the end of the day, because you had no other symptoms.
So all I would say to anybody listening to this is take Nike's little quote of just do it.
Oh God, absolutely. Now that in itself is such a powerful story, but we have to talk about a second story of yours, which is your hearing loss. And I think this story really touches me because I know about you, and I know that music and being a music teacher was one of the biggest parts of your life, and yet as a teacher you still had this hearing loss. And I want to touch on that and raise some awareness about that for our listeners. Can we get you to talk a little bit about what music meant to you and how it shaped your sort of life and your identity?
Well, music had always been part of my life from a very, very young age.
Yeah.
I had lessons from the age of 6. Sometimes I liked them, sometimes I didn't, but it was just, again, routine.
Yeah.
And it was something that I did well. And so I fell into the teaching side of things.
Yeah.
given my age and given the attitudes of career paths for girls in my age group, unless you were right far left or right field of the norm, we were expected to be either secretaries, nurses or teachers.
Oh, really? Okay.
So I didn't look outside of that because I was going to get married.
Yeah.
So it was something that I could fall back on.
Yeah.
And it was something that's really stayed with me all my life.
Yeah. And
it's the teaching that I love, the interaction with the people.
yeah. And when did you start noticing changes in your hearing, or did you ever notice?
I didn't.
You didn't notice any changes?
No. So the changes were picked up when my mum was staying with us.
Yep.
And it started with a knocking at the door with students coming to their lessons. And she'd say, "There's somebody at the door." Oh, and I'd reply by saying, "You'd think they'd knock louder." and she said, "It's a loud knock." So I ended up going for hearing tests.
Yep.
And it's genetic. I think Beethoven had it as well.
Yep, and it's called
Otosclerosis.
Okay.
And it was picked up then.
Yeah.
It accelerated a lot through my first pregnancy.
Wow. Okay.
Because of the hormonal changes in pregnancy.
Yeah.
And it's really calcification of the three bones in the ear.
Yeah.
Where they then can't pick up the vibrations, they seize, and of course everything falls to bits.
Yeah, okay. And so it wasn't diagnosed, but what were your thoughts when you got the news eventually that, look, you do have a condition and this is what it is? Did you have any thoughts at the time?
No, it was what it was.
Yeah.
I've since done family research, and we came from Martha's Vineyard, my father's side of the family.
Yep.
And deafness is right down.
Right.
We even had a deaf mute. My great-grandfather was a deaf mute, and Martha's Vineyard, because of the intermarrying of the families on the island, became the world centre of sign language for a while.
Right, okay. Of course, I guess you didn't know any better because that's how it always had sort of been for you. You didn't have a comparison that, you know...
Well, when you're deaf, you have no comparison.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. If you're going blind, you know you're going blind because you can't see.
Yeah.
If you've got mobility issues, people can see that and you can feel it. Yeah. But with hearing, you can't see anything and people can't see anything. Yeah. So it is what it is.
Yeah, and it's sort of a hidden disability as well for a lot of people.
Very much so.
Because a lot of people won't notice it and they won't take heed of it, you know, they won't make adjustments in their life because they don't know that you have an issue that affects your everyday life as well. So things like even hearing a conversation or hearing someone knock at the door might be frustrating for someone else that you can't hear them, but they don't know how difficult it is for you living with that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
very much so.
Yeah. And now you wear a hearing aid. What is it like wearing a hearing aid, or did you have much thoughts on it?
Well, I had two originally after I turned 30 because of vanity. Now it's absolutely imperative that I have one.
So you had it as young as 30? As young as 30?
I was pregnant at 26.
Wow.
So I waited 4 years for the vanity issue and
but that is
and then
hard.
Succumbed.
It is hard because...
Well, it was two.
And
it wasn't one.
And you don't expect it at such a young age as well, do you? To have hearing issues and... Yeah, that is hard. Wow.
Yeah.
And so you only have one hearing aid?
I only have one because I am profoundly deaf in the left.
Yep.
They actually took the bones out.
Oh, okay.
And put wires in, which didn't work, and there's just no hope for the left. So able to get a cochlear transplant.
Yep.
But at this stage of the game, I'm fine.
Yeah. Do you think if you were a bit younger, you would consider it?
I don't know, because technology has moved so well with things like this that I'm just blown away. I've only just got my new hearing aid now.
Yep.
And the difference between the old one and the new one is just amazing.
Yeah.
So that one's totally gone. Therefore, I sit always with my right ear to whoever I'm talking to. Hence we're sitting the way we are now.
Yeah.
With the right, I can maneuver the volume, which is absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
And that is severe.
Yeah.
So I still can't hear anything without it.
Right.
Or very little.
Yeah.
So the volume goes on the television from something around, say, 8 or 10 to 90
Wow.
with and without it.
So it's made a massive difference, hasn't it? Yeah.
Huge.
Wow. And was there any grief losing your hearing when you're a music teacher? I mean, that's such a juxtaposition right there. How was that sort of processing that?
Well, there was concern at the beginning because I didn't know where it was going to lead to.
Yeah.
But thanks to technology, it was fine. Occasionally, if I put kids in for exams, the results would come back and the results would be fine, but there would be a comment playing a little too loudly. And I knew at that point that I had to go and get fixed again.
Yeah, okay.
That was the only thing. Classwork was fine. I had no trouble with that. And interaction face-to-face was fine as well.
Yeah. And do you have anything that you want people to know about hearing loss? Or is there a message you have for people, the general public? Anything you'd like to raise awareness on about hearing loss?
Not to be selfish.
Yeah.
That you have to incorporate other people. And I think that came home very, very heavily when I went to an audiologist. And at that stage, I'd removed myself. It was all too hard.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'd listen and I'd lose track.
Yeah.
And so I said to the audiologist that I really wasn't interested in an upgrade because I was quite happy to live in my own silent world.
Yep.
To which she replied straight away, well, you might be interested, you might be happy in your own silent world, but you have no right to block other people out of your...
Wow. That's really powerful, isn't it?
Yeah. And at that point I thought, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so anybody with hearing issues, don't think of yourself. Think of people around you.
Yep.
The television being too loud, having to repeat yourself all the time. All those sorts of things, when in actual fact, thanks to technology, that can all be eradicated now.
Yeah, yeah. So do you think a lot of people at your age and stage of life are resistant to getting hearing aids or support, even though they might need it?
Yes, they've got their head in the sand.
Right.
They're happy. Their family isn't, but that's all right. That's their problem. Not,
Yeah.
You know, there's that sort of attitude that comes in.
Yeah.
And it's unnecessary.
Yeah, yeah. And do you have any message for people who might not know about hearing loss in the community? Is there anything you'd want the community to know about people with hearing loss?
Yes, just to be a little bit understanding of the situation. And I think that occurred most of all with COVID.
Yeah.
Where I didn't know that I was lip reading. I don't know that I'm lip reading now, but I probably am. But with the mask on...
Yeah, that would make it hard.
It was so hard. And because I lost the ability to lip read, and the masks muffled the sounds. So between those two being married together, I was at a loss.
Yeah.
And people would take some of them would take no notice. And I'd say, I can't hear you. And they'd raise their eyebrows and look at me as though I was stupid.
Yeah, yeah. I can imagine. It was hard for me to hear people during COVID. I can't imagine with that added layer of, you know, subconsciously probably reading people's lips and not being able to see that. Wow, that would have been tough. And I don't think, as a general person, I would think about that. You know, I wouldn't think that, wow, it could be hard for people to hear behind a mask and many layers.
Yeah, but you'd help a blind person off the street.
Yeah.
Because you can see it, you can't see this.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's that hidden sort of disability that people don't recognise.
Yeah, and I don't think that we pick up our problem either.
Yeah, that's true.
Because you've got no benchmark to really compare it.
So it's both sides almost struggling. Yeah.
Very much so.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about your life. You're at the ripe age of what? 78, 79 almost.
79 in July.
What keeps you fulfilled in life? What keeps you grounded, fulfilled? What keeps you going?
Routine.
Yes.
I have to have routine. I have to have interests. I have a beautiful social network of people.
Oh, you have a bigger social life than I do, Kerin.
Yes, it's all encompassing. I go to gym 3 times a week and marry that up with, I keep saying Feldenkrais and it's not, 2 gyms, 2 yogas, and 1
Pilates, I think
Pilates.
you said.
1 Pilates.
Yeah, wow.
So
That's more than what people do at my age.
but I've got the time, you haven't.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
And that keeps you going, that physical exercise and routine.
Well, I like to wake up in the morning knowing that there is a plan for the day.
Yeah.
If there isn't, I can get a little lazy.
Yeah.
So it's always good to have something. And I make sure that my house is totally together by the time I leave from my gym.
Yeah.
So the house is done. And then I have a plan for the rest of the day, albeit social, business, whatever.
Yeah.
So I keep myself very busy.
Yeah, good. And you love working at the op shop and gardening, and you're very anti-waste, aren't you?
Very anti-waste, but I don't love gardening.
You don't
I love a tidy garden.
You love a
tidy garden,
Yes.
a tidy house. And so my garden understands that it's very tough love. But it survives.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't survive, then it doesn't deserve to survive.
Yeah. And I mean, look, you've raised 2 children largely independently. What does strength really mean to you now at 79? What does it mean to be strong?
What does it mean to be strong? Well, you've got the physical side of things.
Yeah.
And I think that you're responsible for your own physical health and well-being.
Yeah.
I go to gym. I can't say that I love going to gym, but I go to a gym where I have to book in and I have to arrive and I have to do. And that suits me fine.
Yeah.
So I'm responsible for my own health and well-being.
Yeah.
I eat reasonably well, except there's a sprinkling of sugar that comes into the extra 5 kilos that I'm carrying. Other than for that, my mental strength's always been there.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a godsend with just being positive.
Yeah, and I don't think everyone's like that, Kerin. I think you're a very unique person.
But I don't have to work at it, it's just there.
Yeah.
And I always see the good side of everything or the positive side of everything. So the cup's always full.
Yeah.
And that's nothing that I've had to work at.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I think that in itself is a message for other people to stay strong and positive. Because you never know what's going to happen in life, and you have to be able to go through those obstacles and feel like you're coming out the other side to something positive, isn't it? Yeah. And I mean, you grew up in Australia during a time when health education was very different. What was it like in school? Did you learn anything about health? Was there any education at all in the community?
No.
Nothing?
No, there was nothing. People really didn't get sick. We had 1 girl who died of cancer when we were in 4th form at school.
Yeah.
That was the only cancer I heard.
Yeah.
I came from a household of super health as far as eating and regimentation goes. And the school tuck shop hated my mother because she was anti all the cream buns and everything that were there. Little did she know I loved them because I never had them.
Yeah.
I had no dental issues at all.
Yeah.
And health was always excellent and has been excellent all my life.
Yeah.
Except for these 2 little interludes.
Yeah, which was out of your control as well. It's nothing that you could have changed as well. This is sort of, sometimes it happens. And, you know, from the 1950s to now, medicine has changed a lot. What change has stood out to you the most? I mean, you mentioned how technology has advanced a lot in medicine. Your hearing aids have completely changed. Is there anything that has stood out to you from what you grew up with seeing medicine and what it is today?
Well, I never saw medicine because I didn't go to the doctor.
Yeah.
Because I was always very healthy.
Yeah.
And I'm still like that now.
Yeah.
But as far as medicine go, I think it's just amazing with the research that's going on today. And what they can do. I mean, look at me.
Yeah.
In both areas.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm alive and I can hear.
Yeah.
Where perhaps back in the 50s and the 40s, that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, that's true. And is there anything in this health system that you would like to see change in, or something you think that probably still needs work on?
I think we've got a wonderful health system.
Yeah.
Wonderful people within the health system.
Yeah.
And I've travelled to third world countries, and I don't think we know how lucky we really are.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think sometimes, again, coming back to the bowel screening that was done for you by the government, I mean, these are things that other countries, not every other country has, and it truly made a difference to your life as well. Yeah. Now, is there any final messages you would have to someone facing a diagnosis, say it's cancer, say it's hearing loss, anything, any message you have for people hearing a sort of shocking diagnosis today?
Well, I think stay in the present. Don't feed what may be in the future, because it may or may not happen.
Yeah.
Trust the medical process.
Yeah.
And just take the stepping stones one at a time.
Yeah, yeah.
And stay with that until that's completed, and then on with the next one.
Yeah, yeah. I think if you think too far in the future, that's when you get overwhelmed and you overthink about it. But if you take it one step at a time, focus on getting through, say surgery, through chemo, or just day by day, it sort of helps break that mental load, makes it manageable, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And what are you most proud of in your life journey so far?
How I've managed the ups and downs, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yes.
Well, thanks so much, Kerin, for sharing your journey with us. And look, I think it's such a powerful story, and I really do think it'll inspire a lot of other people. So thank you so much. And everyone will join you next time on the next episode of Behind the Diagnosis.
Thank you.